Hey, this is attorney Elizabeth Potts-Weinstein, and today we're going to be talking about how to select the class or the identification of products or services for your trademark application before the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and why you should not be using AI to do this. Do not use Chat GPT to come up with the classes for your trademark. Why? Why is the Chat GPT not good at this? Well, first let's take a step back and talk a little bit about Chat GPT. Okay, so I'm not talking just about Chat GPT, any AI, actually a large language model. What it is doing is not actually intelligence. It has no capability to be logical or know the right answers or anything. That's not how LLMs work. How LLMs work is that it's just predicting what is the next most likely word and the next most likely word after that and word after that, based upon like the internet, kind of everything that's kind of available, everything that's been trained on. So that means that it can come up, it's great at brainstorming. It can be a great way to brainstorm what the classes should be or the kind of things you can think about. But it is not actually capable of coming up with the right answer of what actually should work for you in your business, in your trademark application. So let's actually kind of go through some examples of how ChatGPT handles this versus what you should actually be doing. There's a reason that this is a big problem is when ChatGPT comes up with stuff, it's not actually using the database that the trademark office uses. It's actually just, I'm assuming it's looking at all the trademarks that exists and coming up with ideas from that, which is a good way to brainstorm, but it's not actually how to get the trademark classes you actually need because you need to pull them from the database. Why is that? Number one is that if you don't use it in the database, the trademark office's system will charge you $200 for each numbered trademark class because you're coming up with your own stuff. Why pay $200 extra per class if you don't need to? That makes no sense. Number two is there's a good chance you will get rejected specifically because you didn't use a database. If you use a database, your class ain't getting rejected. You might pick the wrong class because you literally didn't understand what class to pick. But you won't get rejected because you phrased it wrong. You're just eliminating a big problem. It will happen faster, get your approval much faster, more likely to get your trademark granted than if you use something made up by yourself or a lawyer or ChatGPT. It doesn't matter who makes up the class. Someone making it up makes it less likely to be approved than if you just use one that is pre-approved. So let's say that you have a business where you're going to sell apparel. We're just going to start with apparel as an example. So what I did was I asked ChatGPT what classes to use. And then I went through multiple iterations to see if I could get the right answer. I was trying to figure out, is there a prompt that I could give you that would give you the right answer? The short version is, I actually couldn't find one because it just kept giving me the wrong answers. Kind of roll down the windows a little bit, so the stuff in here. So I asked ChatGPT what USPTO trademark classes should I use for clothing items. And it gives me a very high level, kind of almost brainstorming idea of what classes you could use. This is actually very helpful to give you an idea of all the different things that go in this class. So the numbered class 25, includes a lot of things, mostly various clothing items, but also hats and stuff like that. Then there's other things though that might be related to someone who sells clothing, such as you can get a trademark in the class 35 for store services. Store services works really well if you are actually selling other people's branded items. So the brand is the store, and then you sell a lot of different stuff like Target or Amazon, versus someone who actually has the brand on the individual products. Now, Amazon has the brand on their individual products, but Target's store brand is not branded with the name Target. They actually have a different store brand that they put on their store brand things. So that's what I'm meaning is that you have to think about what is the actual brand. Is the brand the product? So the brand is on the label packaging of the products, or is the brand the store overall? But then also you could have other things related to that. And then I asked it to actually draft precise good and services description. Yes, please do that. Okay, then it wanted more information from me, which is very reasonable. These are the kind of things that I would ask somebody. And I gave them a list of things and said that I have items that I have had made. And then also I'm going to sell directly from my website and on Amazon. And I also sell a couple of the things like bags and mugs. This is a very common list of things that people tend to be selling. Okay, so here's what we think your classes should be. Class 25, clothing, and then all this stuff. bags, and then they name these things, and then mugs, and then online retail services. Okay, this is a good idea. This is a good brainstorming answer. But these are not all actual classes in the trademark database. And then at the end, it says, would you like me to format this as exactly it should be? Yes, please do that. Okay, here's your exact formatting. So here's the problem. These things, exactly how ChatGPT said, are not in the database. They're formatted in a way that is consistent with how things in the database are formatted, but they're not in the database. And there's no reason to do that. Bags, namely tote bags, there's no reason to have that when you could literally just put tote bags, because tote bags is in the database. Drinkware, namely mugs, just say mugs. Mugs is in the database. There's no reason to say that. And then the instructions it has is select add good services, then choose freeform text and copy and paste it. If you do that, for each of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, you are going to pay an extra $200. Okay, that's $800 extra because you use ChatGPT. That's not a good idea. But this is a good list of ideas. And so you take these ideas and you put them in the database. I even tried, I was trying to get ChatGPT to give me the right answer. I was trying to find a prompt, access the ID manual, and quick cast suspicions from the database. It did it a little bit, but you still get this bag, namely tote bags. It actually said in the database, tote bags is there. So then you could use bags, namely tote bags. What are you doing, dude? It is in there as tote bags. It knew the answer. It's very close, but not quite there. So ChatGPT or whatever other one you want to use can be great to get ideas. And I tried to get it to do it again, but I kept asking it to redo it over and over again, and it still was not able to do it. It says, I can't locate an exact ID manual entry number for each of your items. There 100% are exact things for each of your items. It can't find it. ChatGPT is really good at making things that sound correct, but it actually doesn't have logic kind of algorithms. So it can't look at a database and pull things, at least not yet. So what it even says, it can search it. You want to search it directly. And I asked it multiple times and it was still not able to search it directly. So that's what I mean is you can use ChatGPT as a way to brainstorm, or whatever other large language model you want to use. It's a way to brainstorm, but then you have to take that information and put it into the trademark database of all the classes to find the actual classes you need to use. Okay, so what you want to do is you can take the things that ChatGPT gives you as a way to start. So let's say you're selling clothing items. You put in t-shirts. T-shirts, that's a class right here. Okay, this little term ID, this is you can think of it as the subclass, all right? This is the specific thing that's in the database. And this is an example, okay? Now you can do clothing, namely hand warmers, clothing, namely folk costumes. You can use those, but to be honest, I think it makes a lot more sense to just put t-shirts or hoodies. This is just more clear. Hats. Now hats you do have to watch out because there are hard hats is in a different class. You can see this is 009. 025 is clothing. 009 is scientific, electrical, working kind of stuff. Interesting, chef's hats is still in clothing. It's not necessarily the most logical thing. Party favor hats are in toys. So you do have to be specific about the kind of hats that you're doing. Belts are very similar. So weightlifting belts is all in sporting goods. Tool belts is in tools. So different kinds of belts are occasionally in a different class depending upon their use. Now let's look at bags. Bags, there's a lot of different kind of bags. So bags for skiing is in sporting goods. Punching bags is in sporting goods. I mean, that kind of makes sense. It's very different. But gift bags is in 16. That is the paper products. Duffel bags are in 18, which is a lot of bags. Now, it's leather goods, but it doesn't have to be leather. It can be plastic. Yeah, and it actually breaks down here in the notes some kind of bags that are in other things. Travel bags is also luggage type stuff. So you can see bags, luggage, tote bags, There's a class for tote bags as well as wheeled tote bags. Wheeled tote bags would be a subset of tote bags. So if you do both wheeled and not wheeled, you do just do the main one if you want. So retail store services. Now, sometimes you actually want to have not just the products that you're selling, but also the store. So where this comes up is if you are selling physical products and the products that you sell have your brand on them, the t-shirts or the tote bags or whatever, then you would trademark the t-shirts or the tote bags or whatever. But if you also have a store where you sell products that are branded other people's brands as well as your own, or just other people's brands, then you would trademark online retail store or retail store services or whatever with those kind of products. So typically what they want you to do is to have a high level category like onto online retail store services or retail store services. And then you put namely or featuring, or it depends on exactly how they word it. Then you have a list of the kind of products that you sell. They rarely, I say rarely because it's not impossible, but rarely are okay with you just saying a variety of products. They want you to be more specific. So retail store service featuring housewares, software, store, convenience store items. And then you have ones that are high level like this, retail store services featuring, and then you just put the field of goods. So in this part, you can list whatever you want. It wrote it online retail store services and retail services featuring. If you search that, it actually doesn't have that. So retail store services featuring and online retail services featuring, that already encompasses this. So they don't want you to put it all together. Why? I don't know. They just don't. So it's important to not, so you online wholesale and retail services featuring, online retail services featuring. So this, you don't want to use this because you could just use retail store services featuring. And then that, what I showed you before, that will cover online. Retail store services doesn't mean it's only in person, but you could also do the online one. That's totally fine too. So let's look at some other kind of things that you can, other kind of classes. Let's say you're selling ebooks. So ebooks can be in a number of different classes. Downloadable ebooks are in class 9. So it could be fiction, it could be different subject matter. But providing online non-downloadable ebooks is in class 41, which is education. So it really depends on how you're delivering the ebooks. And then you could also have tutorial ebooks. So there's some kind of subcategories of ebooks. Classes, if you're doing some kind of educational classes, it really depends on the kinds of classes you're providing. Most classes are going to be in 41, but the subclass really does depend upon the specific thing you're doing. So let's say you can also put in educational services, namely providing classes and instruction in the field of, and then you put whatever it is that you're doing. Consulting, you put in here consulting, depends on the kind of consulting you're doing. So financial consulting is in the financial one. Litigation consulting is in the legal one. Business consulting is in the business one. So you can see it really depends upon the kind of consulting that you're doing. Let's put the word in kitchen. So kitchen, a lot of kitchen stuff is in class 21, which is about housewares and things, but kitchen knives are in 8. Kitchen linens are in 24 because they're fabrics. Kitchen sinks are in the thing about, heating, cooling, all that kind of stuff. So it depends on exactly what the kitchen items are. So if you're selling many, many different kinds of kitchen items, you may need to have multiple classes to cover all those different things. So the bottom line is, you can use a large language model like Chat GPT or whatever one you want to use to brainstorm ideas for your classes. But once you get that brainstorm list, do not cut and paste that into your application. You have to pay $200 extra. You don't want to do that, and also more likely to get denied. What you want to do is take that list and cut and paste those things into the database and find the things in the database that fit your list of products and services. That is the way to start on this. All right, this is attorney Elizabeth Potts-Weinstein. If you want to see any more tutorials about how to file a trademark application, including going through all the different screens and everything, I have links for that below. And also, if you have any questions about your classes and stuff like that, feel free to ask them in the comments below, and I'll try to point you in the right direction. Thumbs up if you found this video helpful. Subscribe for more videos like this. I will talk to y'all next time. Bye-bye.